Hi, let's talk about everybody's favorite, the dismissive avoidant attachment style. You probably know a few people with this attachment style, even if you didn't know about attachment theory prior to this. So it is very likely that either you have this or somebody you love and care for has this attachment style. So usually the dismissive avoidant style forms in early childhood, like all the other attachment styles, because the parents, the primary caregivers, fail to meet the child's emotional needs. This can look in very different ways. For example, some parents simply do not comfort their child when they are crying and just walk out of the room if they are upset. Some are screaming at them, some are telling them to, if they are boys, to man up and not to be emotional because that's girly. Some children are shamed for their needs, especially emotionally, and some are just simply neglected. And there's one thing in common in all of these situations is that the child feels like they cannot count on their primary caregivers to meet their needs, therefore they have to meet all their own needs. And they tend to develop this deep sense of shame around anything to do with emotions and feelings, which is pretty problematic later in life when they are trying to develop a healthy romantic relationship, for example. So basically, what's common in almost everyone with a dismissive avoidance style is that they have a shame wound, meaning that a lot of their messy thoughts and messy feelings come from at some place and time in life feeling shame. It can be around physical intimacy, it can be around emotional intimacy, it can be both. It can be simply having needs and simply having emotions. What are some traits and patterns of a dismissive avoidant? They tend to be highly independent. What this means is they take on this "I don't need anybody" type of behavior. They tend to be highly successful in their life. They tend to sort of only count on themselves and only need themselves. They can, for example, have companies, they can be a CEO, they can just have a high position in work, they can just, be very, very successful in their work life. Why this is usually is because running and hiding from emotions into work, sort of distracting themselves with work so they don't have to deal with the emotional and human aspects of their life. Another very characteristic trait connecting to this is that they tend to tie their self-worth to being high achieving. If they don't achieve that much, they tend to feel bad about themselves. They tend to have a feeling of shame that they, let's say, had a lazy couple of days or that they were sick or something like that. And that can make life very hard for them. So dismissive avoidants tend to focus on work so much because they have a tendency to tie their self-worth to their achievements. In childhood, they are often thought to just be quiet, be a good kid, meaning do not have needs, kind of raise yourself. And a lot of these children feel like, for example, crying is just simply not an option. Whenever they express intense or complex emotions, they are met with anything but support. It can be punishment, it can be shame, it can be just simply neglect. And if this sounds like your childhood, there's a big chance you might have a dismissive avoidant attachment style. So later in life, they tend to be sort of contained of their own emotions, meaning they can come across as calm and logical or even cold. But what this really is that they don't really know how to express their feelings. Sometimes they have even trouble feeling their feelings. They might express it as they cannot access their feelings, or that they just simply cannot tell you what they're feeling at the moment. And they do experience emotions, but mostly when they are alone, and a lot of times with a delay. It can be hours and it can be days. How this can look like is that, for example, you guys are in a romantic relationship, you and an avoidant, or you are the avoidant, and you get into a fight, and obviously that emotionally affects both of you negatively, right? And the not dismissive avoidant partner would immediately be like, okay, I feel like this and that, and this made me feel like this, that, and I would like this to happen to make me feel better. And then that happens, and then conflict resolved, and the not dismissive avoidant partner is happy again, right? But from the dismissive avoidance point of view, it can look like you have a fight and they shut down. They cannot access their emotions. It can feel like they don't feel anything, and conflict is resolved and they are like, okay, whatever. But the day after or the day after that, they just feel sad, because that's when it hits them. Like, you did that, you said that, this happened, I feel sad, you know? That's how it often looks like with a dismissive avoidant. They tend to avoid vulnerabilities because it makes them feel uncomfortable. They don't know how to express their feelings or their needs. They don't really know how to ask for it. Sometimes they don't even know they can ask for it because it was just never an option growing up. They tend to avoid, as the name would suggest, intense emotional conversation. So if the dismissive avoidant and their not dismissive avoidant partner have a conversation, and the non-dismissive avoidant gets very emotional and has this still acceptable but intense emotional reaction or expressions, that can make the dismissive avoidant very, very uncomfortable. They can, for example, just escape. They can escape escaping can look in different ways. For example, they can just get up and leave, or they can stay there and just completely shut down, sort of run away in their own head, which is not really healthy, obviously, but it is very, very common with dismissive avoidance. They can also feel uncomfortable when other people rely on them with their emotions, because they don't even know how to handle their own emotions, let alone another person's emotions. So they would feel, for example, uncomfortable comforting another person. They would feel uncomfortable when their partner cries in front of them, or their friend. They just don't know what to do. It's just like uncharted territory. Like, I don't know what to do. This is weird. I just want to, not be here, remove myself from the situation. Like I mentioned before, they tend to find it easier to deal with their own emotions alone. What this means is if there's something with an emotional input, they tend to take a few hours or a few days completely alone, trying to process and figure it out and really figure out what do they even feel, and then come back to the situation and be like, okay, I think I feel this and I think I want that. Sometimes they can intellectualize emotions, meaning that they cannot really tell the difference between something that's a feeling and something that is a thought. And I have met a lot of dismissive avoidants who thought that their emotions and feelings were just thoughts, and they simply could not, they were unable to tell even themselves what they feel. It can be really, really confusing for them because they were just simply not taught how to recognize and deal with emotions. But no panic, all of this is changeable, fixable. They're not broken. If you are that, you're not broken. It's just your upbringing. And you can learn, everybody can learn this in their adulthood, early adulthood, late adulthood, anytime you can learn it and you can improve towards a secure attachment. If you're interested in how a secure attachment looks like and feels like, watch my video titled Secure Attachment. Okay, dismissive avoidance and relationship and intimacy. Sometimes they can have problems, different problems with physical intimacy. I mean that physical intimacy. They can either separate physical intimacy from emotions and either this or that. And that can result in whenever they have actual feelings for somebody, their libido drops close to zero. They can have a hardcore performance anxiety, especially if you talk about males, which most of the dismissive avoidance studies suggest that are males. It's not me, it's the statistics. Hi, puppy. My dog would like to say hi, but too bad she cannot reach the camera. So, if you're talking about a male who's dismissive avoidant, they can have problems with... Bless you, puppy. Sorry, my dog. You cannot see her, but you just have to believe me, she's here. Was here. So if you're talking about males who are dismissive avoidants, they can have problem with getting in the mood, meaning they can have problem getting it ready to go. I hope you know what I mean. The reason for this, there are several potential reasons for this, and it can vary from person to person. But most common is that they have this sort of performance anxiety, meaning they live their life with this shame wound, meaning they have been wounded and shamed in the past. They can believe, like very, very deep inside, they can believe that they are wrong for feeling what they are feeling, and they develop this sense of shame around what they are feeling and what they want, even regarding physical intimacy. YouTube's restrictions really make it hard to talk about this. So they can develop this deep sense of shame around what they want and what they feel, that they disconnect from it, pressing it down so much, they become unable to connect to it. They are becoming unable to reach it and bring it back up and live in the moment. They can describe it as being in their head too much or just not being in the mood. But what really this is about is that they are afraid that to be vulnerable, that they would be exposed. And if they are exposed, if they are vulnerable, they are being left. So we have the avoidant behavior here, and the layer below that, the cause of that is a fear of intimacy, both physical and emotional, and that is because they are afraid of being exposed, vulnerable. And another layer under that is that the fear of abandonment. It's complicated, I know, but it's not that bad as it sounds. I know many dismissive avoidants who has healed their attachment style and now are securely attached and very happy in their relationships. So if you love someone who's a dismissive avoidant, or if you are a dismissive avoidant, there is so much hope for you, and trust me, you can get there. So since they are afraid of being vulnerable and exposed, they can put up a wall and sort of to create a barrier between them and their romantic partner, and they can use physical intimacy to separate them, meaning that they just don't want to be physically intimate with you because you are getting close to them emotionally and it just feels too much, overwhelming. They can get easily overwhelmed with feelings, emotions, and especially any kind of intimacy and vulnerability. That's a big one. So in romantic relationships, a lot of times the pattern that screams dismissive avoidant is that they meet, they fall in love, right? And early on, they have no problem, getting into it. They have no problem expressing love and care for the other person. They have no problem being with that person. They want to be with that person a lot. They want to talk to them. They want to touch them. They want to do all those ideal romantic things. And with time, when it gets serious and when they actually commit, it tends to drop dramatically. They can stop having romantic affection, physical affection. They can wanna spend less and less time with that person and sort of try to distance themselves. This is not because they don't love you, it's because they don't know how to accept and be okay with loving you in a healthy way. So around the 3 to 6 months mark, they tend to get scared and just retreat and withdraw from their romantic partner. This is a very well recognized pattern in dismissive avoidance, and it can be solved and fixed. I've seen many people go through this, and many people come out on the other side healed, so to speak. So do not worry, it's not gonna stay like that as long as you both want to work on it. If you love an avoidant person, the way you can help them when these things occur and they withdraw from you is that you can release pressure, meaning if you're not gonna put any pressure on them, if you're not gonna have any expectations towards them, if you can enforce the idea that I'm here, I love you, you can take any time you need, you can take all the time you need, and when you're ready, I'm gonna be here and I love you. And that sort of lifts the pressure of performing and being good enough. They tend to come back to you. So if we have one person who's, let's say, anxiously attached person, and we have a dismissive avoidant person, then the anxious person is gonna lean in towards the avoidant person. It's like, I want more love, give me more love. And the avoidant tends to, run away from love. This one chases love and this one runs away from love. And the way you can easily fix this, the easiest fix for this, if the other person just starts to act secure and focus on themselves and just turn to the avoidant with love, there's nothing to run away from anymore for the avoidant. So they can also show up in a secure way, and they can be together happily ever after. Dismissive avoidants can have negative feelings around asking for help or accepting any help, or just basically the idea of needing help, because that threatens their independence, which they value so much. They can seem very strong on the surface, but be a little bit anxious inside. Even though if you ask them if they are anxious, they are very likely to say no, and that's not because they are trying to lie to you or because they are not anxious, but because they simply are unable to unreveal what they really feel. They are simply unable to reveal what they really feel. They can feel numb, like I mentioned before. It can look like, I should feel something, but I don't. That's not actual numbness, that's a sensation of numbness. That's not because they actually don't feel anything. That's because they are in a shutdown mode. It happens when they are being triggered. Their shame wound or fear wound, fear of vulnerability or intimacy is being triggered. Therefore, they shut down, because early on in childhood, they learned that the best way to survive, the best way to stay safe, emotionally or physically or both, and the best way to stay loved and not to lose the love of probably the primary caregivers, aka parents, is to just completely shut down and not show any emotions. It is what it is. All right, so healing a dismissive avoidant attachment style. It is very much possible, and like I said before, I've seen it happen over and over again, many people, many times. It's perfectly doable. If you would like to heal your dismissive avoidant attachment style, first you need to be okay with the idea that your parents and your childhood probably was not perfect. They can be very good and very decent, but it was probably just not perfect. You need to become okay with the idea that feelings and emotions and expressing them are not just okay. It's not a sign of weakness, but it's a sign of strength. You need to learn how to handle other people's emotions, how to show up for them emotionally, how to get comfortable even when somebody's showing intense emotions around you or to your face. You can start working on finding out what you really feel and accepting it and reinforcing the idea that it's okay. Whatever you feel right now is okay. And if you feel numb, if you don't feel anything, you need to go deeper, because trust me, I promise you, you are feeling things. You just need to find them, reach them. A nice way to do this, if you want to do it alone, you can do it alone, and later you can try to learn how to co-regulate with your partner. They would love that, trust me. So you can just sit down, close your eyes or keep it open, just relax and just try to feel what you're feeling in your body. Do you feel a tingling sensation in your stomach? Do you have a headache? Do you have any sensation anywhere in your body? If you can do this a bit, then you can go into what you feel inside. I feel cold. Okay, how does cold feel like? I feel alone. How does alone feel like? You know what I mean? Like, you can just go step by step, layer by layer to your deepest emotions and reinforce the idea that that is okay. If you feel ashamed for some reason, that is okay. Nobody ever should have made you feel ashamed. Nobody ever. Whatever you're ashamed about, I'm 99.9%, I'm 100% sure that is okay, and it's nothing to be ashamed about. But even if you do feel that, that's okay. And if if you show emotions, if you turn to your other person with vulnerability, they're not only not gonna leave you or hurt you or humiliate you, they are gonna love you more. Understand that people feel loved when you express yourself to them, when you are brave enough to feel vulnerable and emotional, even if it's intense. People feel loved when you express your emotions towards them. Even if your emotions are negative, it's perfectly fine. It's okay. And you can deal with it together. You can deal with it alone and later together. But the focus should be on first learning how to feel without shutting down, to recognize when you're shutting down. This doesn't mean you become needy. It just means it's okay to need people, and people around you who love you are there for you because they love you and they want to be there for you. People around you who love you want to be there for you. Trust me. So if this is you or this is somebody you love and this really sounded familiar, chances are you have a dismissive avoidance attachment style. And later I'm probably gonna make a longer, more detailed video on how to move towards secure attachment from a dismissive avoidant point. If you liked it, please let me know, show some kind of support. If I'm sure you know how to do that. Have a lovely day and see you later in one of my other videos.